peace and zero regret. I ran for the job to do the job.
The Zimmer News Team.
And thank God President Trump and the DOJ are now on the scene.
And now introducing your host, Randy Tobler.
Idaho and West Virginia are asking the Supreme Court to overturn lower courts' decisions to block state laws banning transgender girls from participating in women's and girls' sports. Lower courts have concluded separately that the bans discriminate, quote, on the basis of sex and violate the Constitution's Equal Protection Clause and the landmark Title IX.
Well, that is Tanya J. Powers from Fox News Radio that you hear here on Wake Up Missouri frequently, describing two landmark cases which will be heard this morning. Stephanie will be talking about that, as will we. I'm Randy. There's Stephanie, John along, and Drake, of course, still lamenting the Mizzou loss on Saturday. I didn't want to say anything yesterday because I knew he might break down in sobbing woe and never recover.
It's a long season, Randy. It's not a one and done.
So, Stephanie, that's going to be the big deal to see. I think I'm hearing a lot about people are going to be watching how Justice Gorsuch handles this, because there was a case a few years ago where he sort of seemed to equivocate on sex and gender, like they're the same thing, right? And at least that's my take on it. And he ruled in favor of basically the rights applying to people who say that their sex isn't what their sex is.
Yeah, at issue are two separate state laws. They're hearing two cases, one out of Idaho, one out of Virginia. Both are called the Women's Sports Act. Idaho has a flat ban on transgender participation in women's and girls' sports from elementary through college. West Virginia has a ban on transgender participation in post-secondary schools and colleges. And so that, of course, we know the Trump administration has taken some action. They had an executive order in February of 2025 that directed governments to revoke funding for schools that allowed transgender athletes on women's teams. But it's going to be, I think, a landmark decision. Now, of course, we probably won't hear anything until June, but certainly the speculators and the court watchers will probably, based on the questioning, have some insight tomorrow about where the justices might be leaning.
Now, in 2023, Missouri passed a law that essentially says what these laws say, right? I mean, basically banning people that are other than their biological sex from playing on the opposite sex. I think that's in play, but it's being challenged, isn't it?
I don't know the status of Missouri's transgender law.
And then, of course, in Columbia, there is haven't they declared a safe, like a sanctuary, transgender sanctuary city status, something? Yeah,
I think that's right.
So,
yeah, the important cases that you might hear about today are Bostock, which is, it was a ruling in 2020 that employment law protects transgender employees from discrimination, and you might hear about Skirmetti that upheld the Tennessee ban on medical treatments for transgender minors. So you'll hear probably a lot about those two cases and precedents today.
Yeah. We live in a time when you look at a door and call it an airplane, and you look at a car and call it a boat, but that's because that's my lived reality. I think a car, should be a boat. I mean, we're in this sort of like postmodern relativistic world. I mean, and it's just, I mean, look at I wonder if are they going to be allowed to show the justices videos of, you've seen them. I think we've talked about them. The big hulk of a guy, knocking a girl down in basketball, and she's injured with really a significant injury, or on the playing field, soccer or other sports. If nothing else, it's a safety matter, not irrespective of the basic biology of it.
Yeah, it's Yeah, I think that's right. And, as a mother of two young girls, I who are into athletics, right? I want them to have a fair shake at a scholarship opportunity if that's where they ultimately end up in high school. And I think, I heard one interview of a girl, and she said so many sports are like a mental game. And if you show up to that starting line knowing that you're competing against someone who is physically different and physically more capable than you've already lost, right? And so it's demoralizing. And I think we're really about to see, regardless of what the court does, I think we're seeing a shift in public opinion on this issue.
70-30, according to the latest polls I saw.
Yeah, and I think people are starting to come to their senses. It's really interesting because then you kind of see it play out in pop culture. And Brian Hansen actually got me on this TV show, and I'm not really a TV show girl, but I don't have a lot of time. But I have been watching Landman, and if you haven't, I think they release episodes on Sunday, so I don't want to like spoil it. But the latest episode, the young girl, the daughter, ends up going to college, and she's just there for a week, but she finds out this is going to be a roommate in the fall as well, and the roommate has a short haircut, says, their pronouns are they, them, and, they're complete, and, she's a blonde bombshell cheerleader. And so, and it treats it in a really, if you haven't watched it, catch up and watch the episode, because I thought, wow, for cultural media to address this issue and show kind of the other side, and how the blonde bombshell girl felt, hearing these things and saying, and having this other person say, this is my safe space, I don't like music, all of these things, and these are my pronouns. And she said, well, I don't understand, because that's plural, and like you're a singular, but even to like have that conversation in such a popular cultural show, I think really made me think.
That means that the left progressives know that they're losing the battle, because they have to have the discussion.
It's a good show.
Speaking,
I like The Mom.
I haven't watched it.
I'm sure you do, John.
John, you like The Mom. Tell us about The Mom, John.
The mom is, you think the daughter's the bombshell, the mom.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Billy Bob Thornton's the lead character, and it's a pretty good show.
So is
really
that
good.
when John is employing revenge bedtime? We're going to talk about revenge bedtime a little
What's
bit.
revenge?
We're going to talk about revenge bedtime.
This just in, I looked at the mom, and yeah, I can confirm, John, she is a bombshell.
All right.
Look at the daughter, Drake.
Yeah. But speaking of young girls, yesterday I had, as many of you did, and on the Amber Alert, after lunch, there was an Amber Alert that went out. That later became a big news story. And, John, you have the news on that. The kids are safe, apparently, but there's more.
Yeah, this was in a Jefferson City neighborhood. It first issued as an Amber Alert. Turns out a woman is dead. Turned out to be a murder. The suspect was caught miles away near Sedalia. He's identified as Malong Akbari, accused of fatally wounding the woman at the home on East McCarty Monday afternoon. Like we said, the incident prompted an Amber Alert when 2 children were taken from the home, but that was canceled not too long later when the 2 were found safe. Turns out the victim was the children's mother. She died at the scene, and they're not saying much more about this, but they did credit some flock cameras out in Pettis County near Sedalia that was able to spot the suspect's vehicle, and I guess troopers pulled him over along 50.
Was her name the same as his? Are they married, or
we have we don't know confirmation of that, and we don't have a release on the name of the victim as of yet either.
I think if I was going to go into psychology, I would study the psychology of murders, especially domestic partner murders or whatever.
It's the most common.
You think about this study we've talked. Yeah, you hear that story over the weekend where they arrested the vascular surgeon in Illinois who murdered his ex-wife and her dentist husband.
Oh, I heard about the dentist murder, but I didn't get an update. Who was it?
They found him. This is
ex-husband.
It's the ex-husband,
oh my gosh,
who's a vascular surgeon, and he murders the ex-wife and her dentist husband.
Oh, that's awful.
Now I could
and left their 2 young kids in the house. Right?
I don't know.
Yes,
I was telling John. I mean, vascular surgeons have crazy hours. Things happen. People get lacerations. They have aortic aneurysms rupture. They have to go in the middle. So they have crappy hours, And I'm thinking, so they get divorced. She marries the dentist. Well, they work Monday through Thursday. Life, go to their chalet in Aspen, whatever. And I'm just wondering if he just had terrible resentment and got out of control.
I thought dentists had like the highest rate of suicide of all like medical professions.
Oh, I don't know.
Do different like you're
but from her perspective, man,
you're kind of generalizing like various practice areas. Do different practice areas have different personalities? Like podiatrists are all weird. Or
I just know that docs that are on call all the time. We love our dentists, but boy, most of them like Monday through Thursday. If you're a dentist that works on Friday, let me know. I know of an area dentist that works on Friday. I can't remember the name, but I had a patient who had a problem on a Friday, and man, they got care on a Friday, maybe even a Saturday. I think it's down in
it's
Jeff
true.
City, Jefferson City.
It's true, isn't it, Randy? People in different medical specialties are, radically different. I mean,
Yeah.
my radiologist buddies are definitely out there and would
Yeah.
admit it.
Yeah. I mean, pathologists have they generally have a pretty cool gig, they work, but
Psychiatrists come from a different place in the
Yeah.
house.
and like I was up all night and day most of the time unpredictably, but I think that serves me well for this kind of a thing and other things I do. If I have to get up and hunt, if I'm getting up early to hunt at 3:00 in the morning, it's like, oh, well, just another day at the office. Doesn't bother me because you get conditioned for that. No, I'm just kidding. And I know all of you out here, all you docs who are on call day and night, and you know exactly what I mean. It gets to be a little frustrating, because, boy, you just want a little sleep. But what a crazy story. What is the psychology of that? Men that are just angry and they kill their ex-wife's husband, and, men that kill apparently the mother of their, was he the father of the child, we assume, of the children?
In the Jefferson City story, we have no confirmation on that.
Well, we can speculate. That's what we can do here on the morning radio.
You can speculate.
That's the nice thing about not being a professional journalist.
Right.
We can do that.
Yeah, we hope to get more information today on the backstory of this whole
Yeah,
deal,
no,
but a
I'm
lot
sure.
of that stuff is
How sad, though.
evidentiary.
I just, it's so sad when these rage things that happen, and we've talked before how in Columbia, and I think in many other jurisdictions, a lot of the cold case murders are still hanging out there that they're investigating. 90% of them arise out of domestic disputes, right? So it's a big problem, and I guess people just need to learn to cool their jets a little bit. And in a game that I know Drake, did you lose or win money on the Texans' victory over the Steelers last night?
I've only lost money in the past month or like 2 weeks.
You've
so
only lost money.
It's not great.
It's been a bad couple of weeks.
It's been
for
a
you.
bad couple.
Well, sorry to hear that. Stephanie will give you a loan. No problem. Daily DC Rundown coming up. Stay tuned.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
Iran could have acquired a nuclear bomb. I hope we can all agree that Iran should have never acquired a nuclear bomb. And Iran is one of the world's top terrorist underwriter. And now you have that poisonous regime now in spiral. So why wouldn't we want to support that and those brave protesters?
Well, there's John Fetterman. Here's Stephanie with the Daily DC Rundown.
The State Department yesterday issued an evacuation order telling all U.S. citizens to leave Iran immediately as Trump is weighing his options. Trump said Iran has reached out to negotiate over its nuclear program. We just heard from John Fetterman about that after the U.S. has threatened strikes. The death toll continues to increase as a result of the protests, now in somewhere around 650 people. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt yesterday confirmed that all the options are on the table, including airstrikes and diplomacy. In addition, Trump has announced a 25% tariff on any country doing business with Iran effective immediately. It's a mess, Randy.
It is a mess, but it is boiling, and I mean, it is really, I think, near over the edge. We'll see.
Also a mess is Minnesota. The state of Minnesota, Minneapolis, and St. Paul yesterday filed a lawsuit to stop, quote, the unprecedented surge of immigration authorities. Homeland Security has pledged to send 2,000 more officers to the area with the ongoing protests. The suit claims that the immigration officers' tactics are violating the First Amendment and their state sovereignty. The Minnesota AG is calling it a federal invasion of the Twin Cities. Do you feel like Minnesota's being invaded? Like
it's absolutely an invasion. I mean, it's as bad as the Nazis in Austria. Yeah.
All right. Also,
well, Tim Walz, they are sort of Western European over there, so who knows?
We are also hearing a lot of pushback on the Jerome Powell investigation. Multiple GOP senators are breaking ranks, raising concerns about this most recent announcement. John Thune said they better be real and they better be serious about these allegations. Even John Kennedy said, of course, it's a true John Kennedy quote. He said, "We need this like we need a hole in the head." He thinks that the investigation could make interest rates go higher. At the same time, we saw a drop in the futures yesterday morning. The markets were a little bit crazy, but by noon they kind of evened out. And at least one market watcher just said, well, so much crazy stuff's been happening over the last year. The markets are numb to these types of announcements. We touched on it earlier, Randy, but there's two big cases before the Supreme Court today that will be argued out of Idaho and West Virginia. This has to do with the states that have that. I think Idaho was actually the first to pass the ban in 2020. West Virginia passed their ban in 2021. This is the question of whether states can ban transgender girls from competing on female sports teams. These challengers are arguing that the bans violate the Equal Protection Clause and discriminate on the basis of sex and gender identity. So it's facing a high level of scrutiny in the courts because the state essentially concedes that the laws do classify on the basis of sex. We don't have any insights yet what the court might do. It's going to be a divided vote, but hopefully tomorrow we will rely on the court watchers and specialists to see, based on the justices' questions, where they might be leaning. Of course, we won't expect a decision on this until summertime.
I will place a wager that Stephanie Bell will be glued to the hearings, or at least listen to the arguments at some point.
I'm a little bit busy.
Yeah.
I have my own clients with
You don't
their
have
own
it going
problems.
on in the background?
A lot of times I'll go back and listen later, but it is rare that I am able to take
it's fun though to listen.
A big chunk of time out in the middle of the day to
tomorrow
listen
we'll
to
talk
a case that's not mine. And I think I have 3 separate court appearances today.
Oh no, today. Ooh.
Yeah.
We're going to probably talk with some of our legislative friends tomorrow at the Governor's Prayer Breakfast about what they think about this, because it could impact Missouri's law that I know is still in litigation.
Also in D.C., the Senate voted to advance a minibus appropriations package to try to avoid that government shutdown deadline that's looming, Randy. And we're sending a delegation to Greenland.
Oh.
Maybe they'll make some progress.
All right. Hey, did you know that property tax relief is coming for Missouri's seniors? We'll talk about it. Welcome back into Wake Up Missouri. You know, if you're a senior citizen and if your county allows it, I know Boone does, others I think have followed, not all, you can get property tax freeze with some exceptions. I think there are some issues that they can still raise your tax a little bit. I think when it comes to certain, what is that, bond issues or what, John?
Yeah, there's some issues, I think, things that go to the voters, because there were a lot of folks who got their tax bill after they filed for this, and some of the mid-Missouri counties I know who got the tax bill, and it was greater than the previous years, and there's some loopholes built into it for things that are, I think, approved by the voters or something like that can go ahead.
So there's some ways that they can still raise it, but overall it's supposed to at least, I guess what we can say is diminishes the increase at a minimum. But there's income tax relief on the table from Governor Keogh, who will give his State of the State speech today. We'll ask him more about that tomorrow, about the highlights and his agenda, when we talk to him in the 7 o'clock spot. But this article, I saw this article on St. Louis Public Radio. Yes, I do look at what the other side's saying just to keep it, I'm doing that work for you, ladies and gentlemen. You don't have to worry about that. I'm covering the other side. Property tax relief is a priority for Missouri Senate Republicans, according to this reporting. Real estate property tax relief for everyone. This was according to Senate Majority Floor Leader Tony Lutkemeyer at a press conference on Thursday last. And this is based on, I guess, the Republicans met in sort of a pre-session meeting in the fall, and they said that this was our number one deal. At their state caucus retreat in November, the top polling issue among the legislators was the Republican legislators, was property tax relief. No one should be taxed out of their home by government. We've talked about that. Others want personal property tax relief. If I pay for my camper, I don't have a camper, but if I paid for my camper, or I pay for my car, and I pay sales tax, aren't I getting double taxation, which is against the rules? Isn't that something un-American? I'm having to rent my ongoing rental fee to the government to pay something I've already paid for and paid tax on?
Yeah, you're back to the Revolutionary War and taxation without representation. Let's throw the tea in Boston Harbor.
So,
I might differ from you on this issue, but let's see, we're approaching the time when those of us who are self-employed have to cut the big check to the feds. And again, the checks that I got to the state government are much smaller. And I think, and again, I want my dollars to stay closer to home. So I'd rather figure out a way to cut taxes at the federal level. And I don't mind paying a little bit more to the state because I trust Mike Kehoe and our state leaders to be better stewards of those dollars than I do the folks in D.C.
I don't disagree with you. Magnitude-wise, I think people pay a lot more to the federal government than they do to the state.
It's not even close.
Well, how come
and so much of that property tax goes to your school district. And luckily I don't have to write like the big check like I do to the federal government, but I mean, at the end of the year, we write our property tax check, obviously. But I think too, my school district's doing a great job. I'm not salty about paying that because so much of the taxes that we're talking about go to your local fire district, your ambulance district, your library, those are all services I use that are close to home, that are run by people that I know, and that I trust.
But
right?
a lot of people, after they've paid their federal taxes, don't have any extra. I mean, they're spent, they're done, and so every little bit counts, right? And so I'm thinking.
The other thing I think, too, is, hey, you know what? I can control that tax on my car because, you know what? I'm not driving a Range Rover. And so if you think it's too much, you can get a less expensive car and you can vastly lower your property tax bill. What can I do the only thing I can do to lower my federal income tax bill is make less money.
So ideologically, you are not worried about the general principle that doesn't smell right, doesn't feel right, to have to rent something from the government. You're essentially paying rent. or else you lose possession of something. I thought personal property rights were a fundamental right of this country. But it's not really a right if it's an ongoing renewal of that right.
I think I'm more of like a realist and a pragmatist in that I know like we're going to have to fund our schools and fund these other programs through some other way. And for my family, the optional replacement seems to be sales tax. And in the season of life that I'm in right now, you know, we eat out a lot. We grocery shop a lot. And I know, I mean, I'm going to pay through the nose. At least with my cars, I can kind of control it by, again, not driving an $80,000 SUV.
I know one of the arguments that was made, and Steph can probably relate, when they were initially doing the public hearings at the Capitol on the circuit breaker, you know, for the senior citizens and the property tax freeze. There were seniors who got up there and testified who talked about, you know, a lot of that real estate money going to school districts. Said haven't had kids in school for years. They got grandkids that are in private or parochial schools, and there's no money, like Randy said. And when tax day is over, they don't have money left to pay into that. But that was their issue.
And we've had senior property tax relief for years and years and years with the circuit breaker and other things. And I agree, it is harder on people with fixed incomes. But those people who are now saying, I don't have kids in school, a lot of those people did have kids in school at some point when the seniors you know, they were in their 40s, and the seniors at the time were subsidizing their kids in school. And so, and I think even though you don't have kids in school, having what we know is having a good school district in your community is like the tide that rises, raises all boats, right? I mean, it attracts economic development, it attracts high-level professionals, and it ultimately, I mean, if you get that type of attraction and you increase your population, it lowers everybody's tax
However,
burden.
ironically, if you pay your taxes and get a better school district for those seniors, it raises the value of their property arbitrarily, which is why I think there ought to be some kind of a mechanism where, why don't we think about this for senior citizens, people on a fixed income, disabled, whatever. Why don't we think of a thing where you own property and the government essentially has a lien on your property? Then when it's sold or when you pass and it passes to, there's just a clean, no loophole. We're just going to retroactively, we're going to take a cut of the proceeds of that sale.
Well, the government is saying that they get, you know, the benefit of your increased property value, but you also get the benefit of your increased property value.
But you don't realize that in cash flow until you sell it. That's the whole problem. And then some people are forced to sell it. I don't know. I just think, well, maybe, again, we come back to these fundamental problems. Why are we paying? Why does the government have this insatiable desire for more and more revenue? And the predicate is that, oh, the government needs this revenue, so we have to find a way to make up. If we take from this revenue pot, we need to. What if we just say, no, government, we're not going to give you as much money? We don't need to have A, B, C, or D. In fact, we're going to return it to the people. We're going to let them keep their money. And if they want to pay for daycare, if they want to pay for blah, 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 if they want to pay, then they'll pay for it. They'll pay for it through their community organizations, their charity organizations.
But I also don't think like the fact that you have to sell your home necessarily is like the government's problem, right? It means maybe you over purchased. Because if you're in retirement age and no, seriously, what? I mean, you should be.
What are you saying?
If you owe that much money on your home that you can't make your mortgage payment and you're 50 or 60 years old, then maybe you bought a house that was too big.
No, but what if you own your home or you can afford your mortgage, but the ever increasing and you have no control, zero control. A bunch of people sitting at a desk at a tax commission determine the value of your home before it's even sold. There's no market determination. You're not sold.
I don't even
and
know
then suddenly it's like, I'm from the government and I want property tax. And this is what I say your home's worth. How do you know what my home's worth? You going to give me that for my home? Write a check.
The market dictates that. That's what they're trying to determine.
Oh, the market's market. The market is what you ultimately sell it for. I bought an International Santa to fill in my wife's collection from Finland. We didn't have a Finland International Santa. And I got on eBay.
And if you bought less international Finland Santas, you'd be able to afford the property tax.
and I got on eBay. And the market on eBay, some of them were $6 with a box. Some of them were $8 without a box. Some of them, when you put on the shipping, And so I shopped. The market is ultimately what you pay or what you sell. It is not what the government, someone sitting at an office with a green visor cap and a bunch of unelected bureaucrats at a tax commission says my property is worth. That's arbitrary.
I just think it's naive to think we can eliminate the property tax and continue the school system that I really enjoy and benefit from and it's naive to think that the government's not going to stick it to you another way. And
I agree with you, though. The government does stick it to you in many ways because they like to keep their jobs. Not so much I don't think this applies as much to the Jefferson City folks. They have regular jobs. They know what it's like to pay bills, to hire people, to run a business if they run a business or to work in a business. They get that. But especially at the federal level, where most of our taxes go to, right? I mean, we have the plunder of Social Security tax. We have the confiscation by the force of law and going to jail and losing everything called the income tax. I mean, it is absolutely the United Socialist States of America these days. There's no doubt. And then when you turn 65, you have to get Medicare. You have to get Medicare. Oh, really? Oh, talk to me about forced government telling me what I'll pay and what I must do. Hello, salute to the government. So why don't we, look, we've got to, the predicate there is that the government needs this money. Who says they need this money?
They do.
They do. Now, the truth is we have to look in the mirror, don't we? Because we elect these government officials. Because even though that we so-called independents and even worse, Republicans and conservatives say, I don't want government in my head. Well, I'm a doctor and I want more Medicare money because that's the way I keep my business open. Well, okay, you've become dependent on Medicare. If you don't like it, why don't you not take it? If you're a farmer and you claim to be independent, don't take farm subsidies. But we all want those things. And then they get to be entitlements. And then the next question is, well, those are like Mount Rushmore. They cannot be changed. They cannot be removed. They cannot be minimized. Therefore, we need to tax and plunder people so we can pay for them. The whole predicate that we have to spend this money is the root cause, no?
Congressman Smith said we're all getting historic returns on our taxes this year.
So the government's giving us a few crumbs back of what we already paid.
They plunder. They come in and break into our safe deposit box, take the money from us, and then say, aren't we nice? We gave you a little bit of it back. Look at us. Vote for me. What a good guy or gal I am.
All right.
How ludicrous is this?
I am clearly losing this fight. I'm going to try to get back to all of the texts if you want to weigh in with everyone else. 573-874-9390.
But one thing that Stephanie can do is multitask. But when we come back, I'm going to try to illustrate how even if you're a good multitasker, you may still not be as efficient as if you don't multitask. That on Make Missouri Healthy Again. When we come back.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
if you got a piece of paper nearby, or maybe you have your you can get a Google Docs or a whatever Word document up, a blank one. Try this experiment. You ready? Or just a piece of paper and a pen. You ready for this? On line 1, start with an A. Write an A. And the line below it, write a 1. Then go back up to the first line and write B. And then on the second line, the line right below that, the one that you started before, write a 2. So sequentially, you're alternating between one line on top of the other, one line being the alphabet, the other being the ordinal numerals. But you're alternating. You're going A, one line, then go down 1, then B, up, down 2.
This is too much math.
No. That's multitasking.
6:50.
Then I want you to time it, though. Time it. Put a timer on. Find out how long it takes you to do the alphabet in, 26 letters. Go up to 26. Alternating lines. Then stay on line 1. Repeat the experiment. Start the timer again. And repeat the experiment. This time, just go A, B, C, D. Write that first line all the way out. Then go down on that second line and write 1, 2, 3, 4. Even those, especially those of you, be honest now. You'll find that it takes you longer to do the multitasking, alternating between lines. Why? Because your brain has to switch. Your brain, you think you're a multitasker? You're actually making micro switches, like a digital switching, in a tenth or less than a tenth of a second as you go from one task to another. If you're listening to a podcast while you're typing a brief, Stephanie, or if you're whatever, you'll find that, and I find myself getting caught up in this all the time. Just think about it. And not only does it waste time, but there's probably some more sinister downsides to trying to multitask and not staying focused on completing the task or a subset of a larger task at once. It can increase your cognitive load, of course, and that leads to all sorts of problems. Mental fatigue, decreased concentration, poor decision-making, impaired ability to plan, poor problem solving. You know, I believe that this is at the heart of what we hear in the office a lot, which is folks that just can't, quote, turn their mind off when they're trying to go to sleep. I think it's because our multitasking really confuses us. It gets us into this nightmare of neurons firing on 10 different subjects at once. And at the end of the day, we go, there's so much undone and I have so much to do. And what happened to the day? Again, try that experiment today. Alternate between line A, the alphabet, and line B sequentially, one at a time, alternating A on one on the second line. B, go back up to the first line, and you'll find, and then go back and do it again. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Write it out all sequentially on the first one, and then finish that and go to the second one. You'll find that actually, even though you thought you were multitasking and being efficient, actually you completed both jobs in less time if you focused on the job at hand. True or false, Stephanie?
I'm still confused by all the math.
John?
Yeah, I agree with the focusing on the job at hand.
Yeah.
That's kind of one trick pony kind of thing.
Yeah. But I really think it does probably contribute to anxiety. Anxiety is at a fevered pitch in our society. And I think it's because we have all this incoming stuff. We're trying to process it. Some of it translates to how often have you gotten this note? You're in the middle of something. You get a notification from Facebook. It's Joe's birthday. Uh-oh. I haven't checked birthdays in 2 days. Now I have to go and catch up with birthdays wishes.
I don't worry about that, but one thing I've changed pretty significantly is my phone stays on D&D. Like, I do not answer the phone. I don't get any notifications while I'm at work.
Yeah,
I have
I
to do
noticed.
deep work at work. And so, my voicemail, if you leave me a voicemail, it'll send me an email. I'll get to it. I'm pretty timely, but I can't be interrupted all day long. If I didn't do that, I would never get anything done.
We're going to talk with the RNC National Press Secretary in about 5 minutes. Stay tuned for that.
We are going to do something on Greenland, whether they like it or not.
Wake Up Missouri with Stephanie Bell.
I'm passing on this race with zero sadness and zero regret. I ran for the job to do the job.
The Zimmer News Team.
And thank God President Trump and the DOJ are now on the scene.
And now introducing your host, Randy Tobler.
Well, welcome back into Wake Up Missouri, as there's a lot going on in the courts, the national domestic economy, the international scene, from Venezuela all the way through Cuba to Iran. And we're watching scenes on the Chiron of Iran, just a place on fire. And reportedly, according to one report, are washing blood from the streets with power washers as the Iranian Guard is using live ammo. President Trump saber rattling. We're going to try to figure out how to analyze all this from the GOP perspective, with the midterm season in full swing, with Kirsten Pell. She's the National Press Secretary for the RNC. Welcome in. Thank you for being with us.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So I think we're in this season where there are the tax subsidies, are the premium subsidies for health care going to be extended? On the one hand, domestically, the GOP has some differences within their caucus and a small majority, all the way to, 5 Republican senators voting to limit the War Powers Act for Donald Trump regarding Venezuela. I mean, there are just so many things here. How many calculations are going on in this Rubik's Cube in this election season so that the majority is potentially maintained, if not extended, Kirsten?
So there's a lot going on, as you said, domestically and from a foreign policy perspective. Obviously, President Trump is firing on all cylinders. You mentioned healthcare. I just find it funny that Democrats were the ones who designed the Obamacare subsidies to expire. Now they're trying to blame Republicans for this. President Trump has made it clear that he's committed to bringing down healthcare costs. It's something he's talked about, and I know that Republicans are working on that. So we'll see what comes out of Congress. But I think if you want to start from a domestic perspective, we just saw some news that gas prices are falling to their lowest levels in years because of President Trump's work to reverse the Biden-era inflation crisis. Gas prices have fallen. They're averaging around $2.74 nationally. This is the lowest since 2020. This is something that President Trump campaigned on, and it's something that he was committed to doing. And so now Americans are seeing that all across the country, which I think is very positive news. Obviously, Biden had declared a war on American energy. That's just one contrast with this administration where President Trump is unleashing American energy. And so I think I saw the recent gas prices news, and I just thought, this is something that, again, promises made, promises kept. And on the affordability issue, especially, Democrats were trying to claim that they were somehow the party of affordability when they were the ones who drove prices through the roof under Biden. And so President Trump is committed to really bringing these prices down. And so I think he's doing that. I think it's a big focus for the administration when it comes to the economy.
Talking with Kirsten Pels from the RNC, National Press Secretary. I want you to listen to something that Scott Bessent told Chris Rufo in an interview the other day, and I think it may help the RNC or the GOP connect some of the dots between tight borders as opposed to rampant illegal immigration under Biden and the spin-off it has when you don't have rampant illegal immigration. And on the other hand, what happens when you do? Listen.
Table today. One of the Somali fraudsters tried to bribe a juror with $120,000. What turned out, she'd been given $200,000 to bribe the juror, and she skimmed $80,000. It's like the scorpion. It's in their nature.
And I think, Kirsten, this is going to probably be another theme, not only in the midterms, but going on, is it not? You tell me, of just how important immigration law and the protection of our sovereignty and our American way is.
Absolutely. And immigration is something that President Trump, again, he ran on securing our border. It is the undisputable fact that President Trump's immigration policies are saving American lives, American citizens from being killed, assaulted at the hands of criminal illegal aliens who were pouring across the border completely unvetted under Biden and Democrats. And actually, something I also like to point to is America, we actually saw the largest ever one-year drop in homicides in 2025, especially with these steep drops in cities where the Trump administration is undertaking these targeted immigration enforcement and crime prevention operations. And so actually, and this is another fact, a staggering 70% of the over 600,000 illegal aliens deported by the Trump administration since taking office have been charged of or convicted with crimes. So the administration is going after people that are criminals, that are here legally, and that are committing crimes and that are potentially a threat to our communities. And that is a number one priority, and they've been wildly successful in doing so and ensuring that Americans feel safe and secure and that they're not being threatened by, again, unvetted illegal immigration that is just pouring into our country. You mentioned, or I think Scott Bessent was talking about the fraud situation in Minnesota, which is also just a stunning revelation that has pretty much ended Tim Walz's career. And this was allowed to propagate under Democrat rule in Minnesota. This is a Democrat corruption problem. I know the Trump administration has taken action to ensure that the taxpayer dollars that have been defrauded these people are held accountable for their actions, because this is a really stunning revelation about what's been going on in the Democrat state of Minnesota and how that state has been run into the ground with billions being stolen from taxpayers because of these fraud schemes all over the state.
Big talking point for Chairman Gruters always has been election integrity. How concerned is the RNC, the GOP, about the midterms?
Well, we are absolutely. This is a number one priority for the RNC. This is a directive by President Trump that we secure the ballot. We ensure election integrity. We had over 115 election integrity cases in 2025. We're on track to do much more in 2026. We are essentially across the country making sure that states are held accountable, that they are following the law, that non-citizens are removed from the voting rolls, that ineligible voters are removed from the voting rolls. We have one of our cases, RNC v. Watson, is going to the Supreme Court, which will hopefully ensure that absentee ballots are not continue to be counted after Election Day, because Democrats want to make it easier to cheat. And here's the RNC. We want to make it easy to vote, but hard to cheat. We want to crack down on fraud. We want to secure our elections. And so that is a big priority that we have at the RNC and a big focus of Chairman Gruters as well.
That's Kirsten Pell. She's the National Press Secretary of the RNC here on Wake Up Missouri on a Tuesday morning.
I think one of the things going for the Trump administration and us as we get into the midterms is just the swiftness of action by the Trump administration. And one recent announcement we saw was this creation of a new position of an assistant AG focused on fraud. I think that's a big issue as we head into the midterms. Can you tell us more about that?
Absolutely. So I saw that essentially J.D. Vance was out there talking about how the Minnesotans are getting robbed blind. And so he is announcing that he's launching a multi-state fraud task force because Republicans are done letting Democrats run these bloated programs with zero oversight and essentially steal money from the American taxpayer, because we actually care about ensuring that our taxpayer dollars are being used effectively and are not ripping off of hardworking Americans. And so I saw that the DOJ has also been on this. They've issued subpoenas and indictments. This is a crime spree, and J.D. Vance has made it clear that they're going to be cracking down on these fraud networks, and it's long overdue. This is not just waste management. This is crime, and it's going to be prosecuted. And so J.D. Vance has made that very clear, and I think that this is a very promising avenue for Republicans, especially given the fact that we're on the side of law and order, and Democrats are on the side of chaos, mismanagement, pro-crime, essentially just letting people commit these acts of fraud and with zero accountability whatsoever right under Democrats' nose. So I'm looking forward to seeing what's coming out next from this administration on cracking down on all of this incredibly large fraud that we've seen. It really is stunning. And again, it ended Tim Walz's career. So it must be pretty bad for it to have escalated to that level.
Kirsten, do you sense that on some occasions, like the other day when President Trump, to his credit, sat down for a couple of hours with 4 New York Times reporters? Who else would do that, go into hostile territory? But once in a while, I'm wondering if Susie Wiles and maybe some on the RNC have to take some Alka-Seltzer and Prozac when he says things like, well, when it comes to international law, I sort of just rely on my own morality. Ouch! What say you?
Well, here's something that I think President Trump was speaking to, and that's the fact that President Trump is someone who is unafraid to show American strength and American power on the world stage. He's the reason that America is respected again. Remember, under Biden, we had the disastrous Afghanistan withdrawal. We had chaos. We had weakness. Our enemies were thrilled when Biden was in power. And so President Trump has made clear that he was prepared to use every element of American power to stop drugs from flooding into our country and bring responsible those to justice. So the president was explicit that Maduro and his illegitimate regime, they've done so much damage to our country. And the president, again, he offered multiple off-ramps, but he was very clear this drug trafficking must stop. And so President Trump executed this flawless operation with our brave American service members to bring a criminal dictator to justice. And he has done exactly that. And I think that display of American power on the world stage really brings a feeling of security and stability to voters and Americans at home. And so I think that's something he deserves tremendous credit for bringing this outlaw dictator to justice. And this competence could not have been achieved by any other country in the world. And so this was a stunning display of, I think, what shows our incredible American military strength. And this is something that I think that is showing how President Trump has already changed American power in just 1 year and the way that we're perceived. And now he's restored our strength on the world stage.
I think those of us who have taken the Rosetta Stone course in Trumpese know that what he was talking about was the Americans we've sold out through the United Nations and others to so-called international law, which has done nothing but emasculate America as a world power. And I think that's what he was getting at. It's like, hey, an international law, international schma. We're going to do what's good for America because we've sold ourselves down the river. And we enjoyed talking with you about many topics this morning, and we wish you well going forward. Kirsten, look forward to talking to you again as the midterm election season heats up. Thank you, Kirsten Pels. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So, what do you think about turning J6 lemon into electoral lemonade? I'll explain when we come back.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
Remember J6 and all of the iconic images that came from there? Remember there was the guy with the buffalo horns and, sort of crazy dude running through the halls?
The shaman.
Yeah, the shaman. Remember Lectern guy? Remember that guy? He famously took Nancy Pelosi's lectern and was parading around through the Capitol and getting pictures of himself with it. Well, now Lectern guy is he's running on a MAGA platform after he was pardoned on the day of inauguration last year by Donald Trump, and after which he'd served 75 days in jail for a misdemeanor plea. I guess on the plea deal they dropped the theft charges, although he never left the Capitol with the lectern. He just was seen carrying it around. This is a wonderfully American story of, I don't know, is it redemption and redirection? But he's now running for county commissioner
in Florida. Is anyone surprised that Lectern guy is a Florida man?
Yeah. He grew up in Tennessee, apparently had some trouble as a youth, had a couple of marijuana misdemeanors in his late teens and early 20s, didn't turn in the needed probation oversight documents, and that was back in the early teens. And then but then things got better. I mean, he started a business. He married a physician after his first wife divorced him. Apparently, they had some financial problems. Now he's married to a doc. They have 5 kids. But he runs a furniture company called Unlicensed Furniture Movers. They do handcrafted wooden podiums. That's what he sells. His website, where his memoir called Taking a Stand is available for pre-order. He's working on that.
Good.
And I don't know. He says he's a small business owner whose experiences with the challenges facing working families have shaped his approach to leadership. He's also founder of Help Take a Stand Incorporated, an organization that helps families that the system left behind. So he's trying to get traffic laws changed in Manatee County. And I just think it's an interesting story. I mean, he says, I'll expose corruption. I'll fight for affordability. I'll demand sustainable growth that works for residents, and I'll fix our traffic nightmare with real solutions. Does this resonate with you, Columbia residents? Not more studies. Boy,
Thank
Columbia
goodness.
knows how to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on studies and experts. This is what America First looks like at the county level. This is MAGA in action, he says. I don't know. There's something sort of, this is the kind of stuff that the kids will read in the history books in and around those parts, right? Now, he's in a primary with 3 or 4 others running for county commissioner, but, here's a guy.
What they'll read in the history class will be the woke version of it. It'll be Ethan Nordine of the Proud Boys who got 18 years in federal prison. That's what they'll be talking.
That's right.
Be teaching them about.
And truly, I think the guy did violate the law. Those are that's government property. You shouldn't go in and remove it and just take it because you want to. I mean, I get now people would say, well, this is the people's capital and we should do. I think there's propriety and there's laws. But he paid his time. He did his 75 days into jail, and now he's a free man, having paid his penance. I mean, he's pardoned by Donald Trump. So I don't know. I just think it's an interesting story. But I just love this. Take a stand. What a beautiful thing. Around that time, as I was looking a little bit into him, I didn't realize this, but he's also known as Via Getty. Mistakenly, people started thinking that was his name, Via Getty. That was the caption on the picture from Getty Images.
Oh,
you can get Getty stock images, and it said Via Getty. So people started calling him Via Getty.
That is hilarious. Oh, my gosh.
I don't know. It's just fun. These kind of stories tickle me.
Whatever happened to the live streamer who had the best name of all of them? The guy they called Baked Alaska.
Oh,
remember him?
Yeah. I don't know.
He broadcast live from the Capitol in the midst of the insurrection.
Yeah. Well, how about that Grain Belt project? We haven't talked about that. They're suing to seize land in Callaway. Welcome back into Wake Up Missouri. Tomorrow's the governor's prayer breakfast. We want to remind you that we will be there live at the Capitol Plaza, and we'll be talking to the governor at 07:08. Notice that military time, John?
There you go.
Good? Feels good. That way there's no confusion. I've booked guests before, and I said 7:08 Eastern Time, and I get a call the next day after they missed the morning call at 6:08 our time in the evening. I'm like, ugh. Doesn't work out very well for us that way. So, hey, this grain belt thing continues to cause heartburn and consternation. As you know, it's now, I guess, Stephanie, we've talked about this, how the government sort of defunded some of the money that was going to allegedly fuel some of the litigation on the part of the grain belt people against landowners who didn't recognize the eminent domain to give right-of-way those high-power transmission lines. But then I guess they're getting the funds from private money now. But now the company that wants to build these high-voltage electric lines has sued a Callaway County landowner for the right to use his land. They filed the lawsuit. Grainbelt Express filed the lawsuit against Dustin Hudson of Alvas on Friday in county court. Company alleges it offered Hudson fair market value. Well, that's what the company said, so it must be right. They offered him fair market value, so it must be right. If they said so, we can trust them. You can trust those companies.
Well, the company doesn't get to decide what fair market value is in eminent domain proceedings. Typically, there's some sort of I think I don't practice eminent domain regularly, but I believe you get like a independent quote person or panel of people, right. And then they decide fair market value, and then the judge reviews it and approves what fair market value is. Now, they try, and a lot of these things get negotiated privately, and then, of course, utility companies as well as cities and other governments have the power to use eminent domain if they can't negotiate privately, and that's what we're seeing now. KMIZ, again, is reporting that they filed a lawsuit to go ahead and proceed with eminent domain. The project passes through Monroe, Audrain, and Callaway counties.
And there's a lot of back and forth about originally I think there was a lot of rhetoric that it was going to only serve people to the east of us, right? I don't know, power going over through the hills and valleys of Missouri to other places. But then it was said that no, it will actually be distributed to some communities, some rural communities in Missouri. Yeah,
there's some connectors, and I think, and other folks are involved, and so I think there was some. I think there's a connector that goes into mid-Missouri. So although the project will carry some energy from Missouri to Illinois, I think it also carries power into Missouri.
I wonder if part of the negotiations in these kind of things could ever involve some, if you will, investor-type involvement in the company's earnings. So if I'm a landowner and they need me to participate in their business operations, what prevents me from having ongoing benefit from that? In other words, if you make $10 billion next year, I want a cut of that as part of the negotiation. What's wrong with that?
I don't know that I've seen that done.
Dustin,
typically,
talk to your attorney.
For an easement, you would, depending on what it is, there's depending on the type of project, sometimes there are ongoing payments or ongoing commitments, but typically just for the initial right, there's like a lump sum payment. But oftentimes, that's why I think people negotiate up front, because not only does the utility want that land or that easement, they also typically are on a time frame. So a lot of people negotiate up front, and maybe you get a premium above fair market value because the utility is in a pinch and they want it, and you're an important piece of the project.
I know my daughter lives in an area where there's something about a sewer line or something, and someone wanted to tie into it for a development, and they wanted to pay her a one-time deal. Go fly, we're not going to do that. You're going to make all kind of profit and benefit from this as a developer. She told them, go fly. They were like, well, we need this. Well, she said, need this. Go ahead,
well,
Drake.
The problem is if you tell them to pound sand, they're going to use eminent domain and do whatever they want, right?
For a private development? Nah. Subdivision development? Nah.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
But in the utility context, right, the law gives
Yeah.
them a lot of latitude. And so oftentimes, I mean, for a lot of people, the important thing, if they're going to come over your land, is where, right?
Right.
And so at that stage, you can perhaps negotiate, well, I really would rather this not be close to my house or over my farmland or here or there. And so you do have, as a landowner, some ability to negotiate.
She wants to add a little four-season room. I said, why don't you tell them you build me a four-season room? We can talk. Go ahead.
I'd be okay. I'd be okay if this went all throughout Missouri, but if a single little watt of energy goes to those dirty animals over in Illinois and they want to use my land for that, it's going to become a Ruby Ridge, Waco, Texas situation. I will not stand for this. That's why I dislike this.
No, this is wind power from your friends in Kansas
Ooh, yeah,
where it's generated.
Is that? Yeah, that's right.
And I mean, it hasn't been without government oversight, because recall that if it's an investor-owned utility, these types of projects appear before the Public Service Commission, and there's a factored test. They have to obtain a certificate of convenience and necessity, which is getting a little bit down in the weeds, but they have to make their case before government regulators saying this project is necessary. It's in the public interest. Here's why we need it.
PSC a couple years ago signed off on grain belt through Missouri, so they gave it their stamp of approval.
And of course, this issue has been going on for a very long time, because you recall it went up to the courts and the counties got involved, and there was some legislation about. I think there was legislation about how those county approvals get done, and then there was also legislation that in certain circumstances, rather than just getting fair market value, you basically get fair market value plus a bump.
But you think about this. So say that I have 120 acres. I got 100 acres of land, and they want to cut across it, and therefore, prevent me from farming or hunting or whatever on that land, or planting food plots, or doing a burn, because you can't burn below power lines because of the static electricity. Okay, well, someday, and it's not if, it's when, I or my heirs want to sell that land, its ultimate value is diminished because of that, right? I can't see how unless there's an ongoing, perpetual benefit to me or my heirs, or those who might buy that land from having that easement. A one-time deal, sort of one and done, disregards the property. I mean, after all, we all agree that if your home, we talked about it earlier, folks, if your home increases in value, you got to pay more property tax, because we've all agreed that the assessment has to follow the alleged fair market value of the home. Well, why don't the benefits to my successors who own the land, why don't the benefits accrue just as the land would if I owned it and had total control of it? What's wrong with
I've mentioned before that I've got a friend who's a landowner in Callaway County and was thinking very favorably about taking up the solar farm people on their thing. And his kids don't want any part of it.
No,
the kids are like, "Hey, man, we want to inherit the family farm just the way it is." And he says, "Well, they're offering a lot of money to put these solar panels on the back 40."
I don't know. There's something about the sanctity of the land. I don't know what it is. Just the sanctity of the land.
But you also want to be able to turn on your lights.
Okay, well, that's okay, but both can be true. So if the land is sacrosanct and sacred, then when we violate the land in the interest of some pursuit, it ought to be worth one pretty penny, even though they don't make them anymore. Pennies.
That's true.
I'm just saying.
R.I.P.
I'm just saying. They ought to extract a pound of flesh. You go for it, Dustin. Those guys sitting in the high towers and the glass ceiling, glass walls in New York City, wherever that company is, trust me, they're not hurting. They're not hurting. There'll be no sacrifice on their part. I don't know. I'm turning more populist as I get older. What's the matter? What's going on here?
Next thing you know, you'll be lobbying to be included in the opportunity to build a Native American casino on your property.
I was talking with someone the other day, actually my son. I said, come to think of it, whether it's the tech bros with Trump or whether it's, whoever was in bed with Biden or Obama or Bush or whoever, the people at the high levels that really determine our fate. We have very little determination of our fate. The defense contractors, we really are. Bernie Sanders and AOC, in a way, they're sort of right. If you look at
Did you clip that?
No,
I can.
I'm talking in the diagnosis.
Biden is right.
We are increasingly.
Right,
it is undeniable.
Right.
It is undeniable. It is undeniable that the wealth gap is real, and we're getting into the middle class is getting squeezed out. We're getting into a binary situation in this country. And the big captains of industry and everyone that we've talked about it before, consolidation in industries. Why does consolidation happen? It happens on the back of crony capitalism and government regulation that favors those who already have the means to expand their business, and it punishes those who want to start up and compete because of the regulatory tyranny. So the diagnosis about oligarchy is not too far from the truth. The solution, their prescription is like prescribing strychnine or cyanide. I want to make that perfectly clear. There's a reason that a lot of the people that voted for Trump were actually as likely to vote for Bernie back in the day, back in 2016. There's a lot of overlapping of those Venn diagrams in the anger of how people that control the levers of government control the financing of those who govern, control the regulatory environment of those who govern, and ultimately control your fate because they can. Evan says, hate eminent domain. You ought to just have to pay. So what if it's 10 times market value? In a libertarian utopia, would you need it? Doubt it. Glad this world is not my home. Whoa, okay.
I think part of it, though,
Evan.
We're going to run out of time here, but part of it is, if my farm's not doing really well and I want to stick a windmill or a solar farm on it, shouldn't I have the rights over my own property to do that?
Yeah.
And part of it as well with investor-owned utilities is if the utility has to pay me 10 times market value, guess who's paying the utility rates? We all are. And so the utility can't pay 10 times to you because then it has to pay 10 times to everyone else. And guess who ultimately ends up paying for that?
But I want to win. And I thought you approved of winning.
Well, I can help you win if you're dealing with a utility.
Well, there's these things called little modular nuclear reactors. They don't take up the landscape with hugely windmills and solar farms. They're hugely. John, what's coming up with you?
Like the Florida man says, the hue manatee.
Oh! Lectern guy is running in Manatee County. Look at that. How about that segue? Nice, smooth, connecting the dots with John Marsh when we come back.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
A man is admitted to lying about his love of manatees for almost a quarter of a century to protect the feelings of his son, who has showered him with manatee-related gifts for years since he was a kid. I only said I love manatees to soothe the feelings of my young son over 2 decades ago. Year after year, I rolled with the lie because it was harmless and I was in too deep to tell him the truth. Fib started 24 years ago when the man's son, 6, gifted Dad with a mug with a picture of a manatee on it for his birthday, and he got upset when I wasn't sufficiently thrilled. I assured him I loved it, saying manatees were my favorite animals in the whole wide world. It's gone on to be manatee-themed items every Christmas and birthday, manatee shirts, manatee calendars, even manatee beer steins. And now he says the deception has reached its zenith. Who says he's turning 55 this year and his son 30, and his kid has come up with a special marine mammal present for this year. My son has booked a trip for the 2 of us to go to Florida to see the manatees. My son is so excited about it. He's telling everyone in the family. Even my ex-wife is gushing about the trip, and the guy says, even despite my lack of love for the ocean grazers, Dad said he is thrilled to go on the adventure with his son, and he's sure it will be lovely and spawn some great memories. So there. Oh, the Hugh manatee.
I have fond memories of our manatee diving trip. We went down to Crystal River, Florida, down in Manatee County, where they reside. This is back before I had a diagnosis of Cushing's disease, which weakens your bones and causes all kind of other issues. Got that taken care of a year or 2 later, a couple of neurosurgeries. And I remember we went down there, and you have to park in this parking lot, and that's when they allowed the boats to take you out and dive with the manatees. I think they put a moratorium on it after that because the manatees are so friendly. They would come up to the surface to be curious, and the boats would carve them up, the propellers on the motors.
Yeah.
So, but we were lucky to dive with them. They're just such gentle giants, and they would just be down there just hanging out, But I remember I broke a rib on that trip because I was carrying both of our big scuba dive bags. At that time, we had all of our equipment. They're pretty heavy bags. And I remember coming back from that dive trip with the manatees, and I every time I took a breath, it was killing me. It turns out I had a rib fracture. That was then we ended up backing into the diagnosis. But it was a really cool trip to be, within 6 foot of a manatee and just hanging out there. They didn't run. They didn't, attack. They didn't get defensive. They're just beautifully gentle creatures. They were a real treasure for Jimmy Buffett. I think he had a manatee support charity, if I'm not mistaken. I think so. I think he really was a sponsor of them. I got to go back and look and see if they're allowing diving with the manatees anymore. Boy, was that a cold dive. Woo! Even with a 1/4-inch wetsuit on, it was cold. Fresh water down there. Man, rough. But they're wonderful animals. So that's a good family thing, right, John?
There you go.
Sort of generational bonding there.
I guess so, especially if you're a kid and you're into manatees.
Yeah. I would think that'd be something producer Drake might like, to really take up manatee, everything about the manatees. Could you give us a book report on that tomorrow? Maybe
not a big manatee guy, but
maybe
I'll
the governor would like
show.
to hear about your research into manatees.
I think they move too slow for Drake.
I like birds more. More of a bird guy.
He'd be more of a dolphin or a killer whale
Dolphins
guy.
are cool. Dolphins are
or
cool.
Roadrunner. Beep beep. We're going to talk with Brad Jones, National Independent of Business, and we're going to talk about with him about the business report just out. Stay tuned. Missouri, on this day where the governor will deliver his State of the State address, we talk with Brad Jones. He's the Missouri director of the National Federation of Independent Business, and we talk to him at this time every month about what's going on in the small business world, because small business creates jobs, creates commerce, actually creates wealth instead of printing money. Right, Brad? Welcome in and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Doc and team. How's everybody doing this morning?
Good.
It's
Good.
Yeah, and I've got some fairly happy news this morning.
Good.
Based on the December Small Business Economic Trends Survey that came out at the end of the fourth quarter last year. It was I think November was up and December was up also. So it's kind of an indication that maybe we're going to get into the 26 year looking at things maybe a little more positive than we did in the middle of last year. We had the survey came out this morning. Of the 10 indicators, we had 2 that increased, 3 that decreased, and 5 of them just remained unchanged. But the optimism index itself ticked up 0.05, which is a nice little tick up. And I think the main reason of these 10 indicators, the one that was the biggest, and as you and I have talked about, Randy, the one I look at first is, do you expect the economy to improve in the next 6 months? And that thing took a huge jump up, 9 points, and that is a big jump up for this survey. And that really kind of buoyed the 0.05 from the other indices. So why? I guess everybody wants to know. Okay, if the small business economy is feeling better, why is it? Yeah. First of all, I think that a lot of small business people feel like the cost pressures are going to ease a little bit. In other words, we're going to try to look at the inflation numbers. They're going to finally start to kind of, at least if they're not going to go up, they're going to stabilize or come down a little bit. That's a good thing. The other thing that we hope is going to be a little bit better is the whole labor situation. Now, not everything is all sunshine out there, because there's still some issues with the economy, especially with small business folks, and the labor issues and not being able to hire anybody and find anybody to work is still out there. But at least there's a feeling out there that maybe that thing's going to plateau a little bit, or at least improve. And then the third thing is that, and I want to talk a little bit about this later, is that companies are now looking at investing in themselves. And I think one thing goes hand in hand with optimism with the small business folks. One, they tell you that we think the economy is going to get better, but the other one is by action. And that action has to do with, are we going in 26 to spend a little more money on ourselves? And what do I mean by that? First of all, there's equipment. Do I need to finally get that new pizza oven that we've been talking about? Is there equipment that we need updated? We've had the same stuff around here for 20 years. Now maybe it's time that we upgrade that. Our vehicles. I mean, we've got one that's got 300,000 miles. Maybe it's time our delivery vehicles need to be switched out. Maybe 26 is the year that we need to do that. And the third thing is to improve your facilities. Maybe we need to knock out this wall like we've always talked about, or put that addition on the back, or, just spruce up our front of house area. Those are the kind of things that we're talking about when we talk about capital outlays. And that's up a little bit, according to another part of the survey. So, when you look at those kind of things, and what do those do, Randy? Those generate jobs. So you have people that come in, you sell the car folks are happy. All of those little things are kind of the pebble in the pond. That it has ripples to it when a small business wants to expand and get better. Not to mention the fact that you hope that, of course, it's going to help you bring more people in the door, and your sales are going to be better. But it's a direct indicator that you feel better about what's going to happen in the future if you feel good about improving your own lot as far as making your company look better and operate better. So those are a couple of the things.
That's the optimistic Brad Jones this morning on the heels of a newly released report. He's, of course, the Missouri director of the National Federation of Independent Business. He joins us on Wake Up Missouri.
Brad, you were there 1 year ago when the governor delivered his first State of the State address. Mike Keogh this afternoon, number 2 on the State of the State. What would you like to hear from the governor today in reference to your small business constituents?
I'll be listening, John. at 3 o'clock, I will be listening. There is, I believe, I'm not telling anybody anything different, but the budget and tax policy in Missouri is going to be front and center this session. And one of the things that the governor and he has visited with NFIB about this is eliminating the individual sales tax. And there's a lot of moving parts to getting that done. And we had a nice visit with the governor. We are going to have, like every other organization, we will be listening very carefully to exactly how that's going to be done, because it's a big job bringing the individual income tax down. Of course, there's going to have to be some consideration on how you're going to replace some of that income. And so, I think from a small business standpoint, what are some of the things we'd like to hear the governor talk about? Of course, regulatory reform, which you talked about a little bit earlier this morning, is always something that we're looking at. Civil justice reform. We've got small businesses out there that are, once again, getting sued for absolutely doing nothing. And so I think those are a few of the areas that we're going to be looking at, but we're definitely going to be laser focused on some of the details that he's going to be laying out concerning the individual income tax. And I'll say this about the individual income tax. You've got 85-90% really of all the businesses in the state of Missouri are organized like an LLC or sub-S or partnership. They're called pass-throughs because they pay their taxes through their individual income tax. So as I've always said and tried to educate the legislature, anytime you do anything that lowers the individual income tax, you're actually helping small business owners. So we're going to be looking at it. Needless to say, there's other states I know that don't have an individual income tax, and they're doing well. And I think the governor's looking at some of those states and saying, "Hey, we should be one of these." And so the devil is in the details on that one, and we're just going to have to see exactly how he wants to roll it out and the timing too. I mean, is this going to be a 3-year thing, a 5-year thing, or is he want to do it immediately? So we'll all be listening at 3 to see what the governor has to say.
We're talking about small business with Brad Jones, National Federation of Independent Business.
We've kind of been having that debate this morning about, restructuring our tax structure. And I think that we're naive if we think the government's not going to get the money from somewhere, right? Like, I agree we can lower the tax burden to some extent, but part of it is, perhaps taxing things we haven't taxed before. I would imagine there's some disagreement among your members about what should the replacement tax be. Are you hearing, do people, because we can't eliminate the income tax and the personal property tax and continue to fund everything we're currently funding at a base level, right?
Well, correct. Yes.
So do your members have a preference of should we go to higher sales tax? Where are they at?
I'll tell you what, Stephanie, we're going to ask on that too, because we have a pretty democratic association, and we ballot our members on things. And I think once we get to a point where we know exactly what it is that we're asking, we are going to be asking those questions. if I can kind of see the way we would write it, and that we would need probably a series of questions, and those questions would be exactly what you just laid out. How do you all feel about raising the sales tax? Do you think we should expand the tax base by raising taxes on services that haven't been taxed before? Do you think government spending should be cut by a certain percentage if you're going to be cutting the sales or the individual income tax by a certain percentage? I think those are some of the questions that we're going to be posing to our members. And the thing about our surveys, you want to kind of hit the bullseye when you ask the questions. There's the problem we've had in trying to nail down some of our membership on tax issues is you'll ask a question and then 3 weeks later there'll be a whole different proposal, and you say, well, that's not exactly what we asked. So I'm not sure exactly where we are with the answer. So excellent question, and it will kind of get to what the governor has to say this afternoon and where we go forward.
And of course, you have a lot of members who I'm sure do a lot of business with the government, so they don't want smaller government. They want the same or bigger government, right? So a lot of competing and diversified views, and I know you will assimilate all of those, present them, and hit it out of the park, Brad, with your efforts in behalf of small business and the employees that those businesses give family revenues to, right? So it's all important.
Absolutely.
Thanks very much, brother. We appreciate it. We'll be looking at the state of the state today and then talking about it when we get together next time. Thanks very much.
Have fun in Jeff City in the morning.
Oh, we will. Yeah.
We'll be listening. All right.
Sounds great. Thanks, Brad.
See you.
All right. When we come back, let's check out the markets. Let's see how big business is doing on the big boards with Stephanie.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
I hear the bell tolling. How are the market's looking?
Oh, we had some record highs yesterday. The NASDAQ was up 0.26, the S&P up 0.16, the Dow up 0.17. Again, the S&P 500 and the Dow hit new records. We had a little bit of a lull and a downer yesterday morning, but stocks rebounded yesterday, so that is looking good. As we look at the sectors, we had big gains in materials, industrials, and consumer staples, while losses in financials and energy. As we look at the futures this morning and where we might be headed, everything's pretty flat for now. We are expecting some pretty interesting data out this week. I think today we are expecting the CPI information from December 2025, and then tomorrow we are expecting the producer price index. Again, we got a mixed jobs report. Some of the economic data has been delayed as of the government shutdown. So it's a big week.
What did the Trump call for the 10% cap on credit cards? Did it do anything to the big bank stocks? I bet it did.
I don't know exactly. I know this is really earnings call season for all of the banks right now. And I saw earlier this morning, too, that even with the Powell announcement that they said the markets have really kind of been numb to some of these big announcements, whereas normally we would expect big fluctuations because Trump tends to make big announcements or exaggerate or pull those back. So financials were down yesterday, John, so that could be as a result of financials was the biggest loss, so that could be that.
I know right out of the box when Trump proposed that 10% cap, I mean, the banks were kind of upfront about it and said, hey, what about our profitability here,
They just released some of the category numbers, and dairy and eggs were actually down year over year in December by about 0.9%.
I could have told you that. I was at the grocery store this weekend.
Yeah. Of course, we all know that gasoline's down, really down in Boonville. I don't know, you guys down there, you got a blessing. And airfares apparently took a little bit of a down.
Yeah, there's some
true?
major sales happening right now.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about jetting out of town for a bit.
Does that reflect consumer demand falling a little bit, or is that I don't know.
I don't think so. I think airlines are pretty hot, but they are running some pretty good sales right now. The other thing we're watching, the Wall Street Journal is reporting that we are falling out of love with pizza.
All pizza, frozen pizza,
all
just
pizza.
Really?
All pizza. And I am here to say I will never fall out of love with pizza. If there is one thing that will never do you wrong, it's a good slice of pizza. But they're reporting that pizza restaurants dropped from 2nd to 6th place among U.S. restaurants.
Price point, probably.
By sales, yeah. Since the 1990s, they're outnumbered by coffee shops and Mexican joints. Not surprised by that. I love a taco. Almost. I think tacos probably beat pizza for me right now.
Chinese food, no? I like that.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. But
pretty affordable.
Yeah, there's a lot of pizza places that have been going into bankruptcy, Chapter 11, including Pyology and some of these other bigger pizza chains. A lot of the pizza companies, including Pizza Hut, Papa John's, and Papa Murphy's, are like undergoing strategic reviews, trying to figure out what's going on and how to handle this decline. Domino's is actually gaining market share, and I've talked about them before.
Why?
They're so cheap.
So, yeah, you got to wonder, why does a pie cost $20 in some places, right? I mean, I don't know.
Or 30.
Or 30. Or 50.
But you can get apparently this article says you can get a large pizza with toppings from Domino's for $9.99. So, but Pizza Hut's still having challenges, lots of declining sales. So, I don't know. I'm still in love with pizza, especially some of our local joints, John. We got some good pizza in mid-Missouri.
Many of you are telling us you're not happy with a sentence handed down for two guys convicted of murder. We'll be back.
I think just
Welcome back into Wake Up Missouri. President's at it again with Greenland.
I haven't done that, but Greenland should make the deal because Greenland does not want to see Russia or China take over. They don't go there. It's very far away from Greenland. And Greenland, basically, their defense is 2 dog sleds. Do you know that? You know what their defense is? 2 dog sleds.
Well, he's entertaining, isn't he? He continues to give us a lot to talk about. Brian Hauswirth joins us now. We're getting unsolicited texting and communications, Brian, on the social and on our text line 573-874-9390 about the sentence handed down to this drive-by shooting convicts. Now, tell us about the story and what's going on.
Yeah, I was in court yesterday, and I've been covering this, obviously, on and off for 4 years. There was a lot of it we couldn't cover at the time because it was in juvenile court. This was a young lady, student, teenager. Her name was Aubrey Doxley, Randy and Stephanie, who was struck by gunfire while sleeping in her bed.
How old? Child?
Teenager.
Teenager,
young,
okay.
Young girl. And I don't have an exact age. The mother talked about, I'm going from memory, but young. Yeah. And the 2 men who were, and they pleaded guilty to the role there, Randy. They obviously were not shooting at her. No one is saying they were. It was a drive-by shooter. So whoever was shooting at her, that's a little unclear. But the bottom line is they pleaded guilty last week. And I encourage the people that are sending the text right now, please read the story, folks, at 939theeagle.com, because I make this very clear. The prosecutor, Sue Barisi, who listens to the show, probably listening right now, she and the defense attorneys, 2 of them, 2 very prominent defense attorneys, reached a plea agreement, and they came together and reached a plea agreement, and basically it would be to plead guilty to second-degree murder and to unlawful use of a weapon. The other 2 charges would be dropped for 18 years. That plea agreement was presented to the judge. So even on our own Facebook page, people are ripping Judge Jeff Harris. He said in open court, and it's in my story, folks, read it please before you comment, he is saying he accepted the plea agreement because the victim's family supported it. And I think that's significant. But the bottom line is when you're a prosecutor, you run the risk if you go to trial, you have to prove who had the gun or whatever. It could be difficult. But the victim's family was okay with this agreement. They were very emotional yesterday. The mother told both of these 2 she forgives them, doesn't hate them. But Randy, she urged them, and this is all I can say because she didn't elaborate. She said, I want you to tell your mothers the truth about what happened that night on McKee Street, suggesting that they haven't. And the uncle, who didn't talk, someone else read his statement, he told them both that they've shown no remorse, that Aubrey's life was stolen, and that there's been online bullying that's been going on against the victim's family. Yes, he said that. Online bullying against the victim's family. So I don't know exactly what they mean by that, but it's just a very emotional sentencing hearing to the point where I could not leave the courtroom right away. They waited for one group of family to leave first, and then a couple of reporters could go, and then it was very, very emotional, to say the least.
Were it not for the, I guess, approval, endorsement of the plea agreement by the victim's family, right? That's what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Is there some kind of a prescribed sentence for this type of a thing? I mean,
second-degree murder. Now,
if there was a jury and all
exactly.
that. Okay.
The mandatory, let's put it this way: the minimum for second-degree murder would be 10 years minimum. I mean, that's felony murder. But that sentence ranges all the way to life with the possibility of parole, and life, as you know, is calculated in the state at 30 years with the possibility of parole. So what the judges generally do is, on these plea agreements, they accept most of them. I can remember maybe one that wasn't, but generally they do. And they always ask, does the victim's family support it? The victim's family was not ready to talk last week, so Judge Harris made sure yesterday the victim's family was there. They did say they supported it. That said, they also said that they didn't feel like these 2 were showing any remorse. But did the judge have to, because the victim's family accept it? No, but generally they will.
And you reported that Aubrey's mother, the victim's mother, told the now convicts that she forgives them and doesn't hate them, but urged them to, quote, tell their mothers the truth. Yeah, as you mentioned. So I'm thinking, Will they be in the Boone County jail, or where are they going to be in state prison? Or
they'll be in a maximum security prison. They'll be probably in the Boone. Today's Tuesday. They'll be in the Boone County jail, and they never announce when they're going to do it. Probably sometime this week. The county will transport them to the Fulton Reception Diagnostic Center. They'll be there for a couple of months, and then they will end up in a maximum, because I worked at prison system. I know that they will go. Now, I can't tell you which one. It could be JCCC, it could be Potosi, but they will be in a maximum security prison here within the next probably 3 months.
Is this the kind of setting where these guys could be in jeopardy? Not that I'm too upset about that. With other prisoners, because this was a young woman, who was killed. I mean, I know that rapists are, they get a second set of justice sometimes in prison. But
Randy, that's a great question. I don't know that. I mean, obviously the young lady who was killed was very popular. I will say, in fairness, the victim. I didn't know. The courtroom was packed. It was standing room only, so I was able to get there. And the hearing didn't start for 90 minutes after I got there, but most of the people sitting next to me and behind me and in front of me were actually Ashford and Sumerian Robbins families. Yes. I don't know. The mother for sure. Oscar's mother was sitting kind of where you are right now, where I'm sitting. Yeah. Obviously facing the other way. So they had support in the courtroom. They did not talk, but they did. There was support for them. I don't know. I mean, obviously, now, they would have had the opportunity, both of them, to talk.
Do we know the genesis of why what was the dispute? What was the problem? What was the root problem here?
We don't know.
That doesn't get exposed?
That doesn't get exposed. Huh. And if trial would, the court documents were so redacted. So it had to do with people in the driveway that were in the driveway of this house. But as far as what caused it, I will tell you on CaseNet, and it doesn't elaborate, the word gang is mentioned in CaseNet on a docket entry, but there's no indication of what they mean by it.
So it wasn't a dispute over the lemonade stand prices.
That's my gut
Probably
feeling.
Not.
This
is a systemic problem in our community that has some deep roots, right, that we need to try to figure out.
It is
social problems, right?
It's McKee Street, which has had several homicides. There's still a homicide on McKee a couple of years ago that I reported on with you, where a man and woman were shot on McKee, and they have still not found who did it. Now, these two, we have somebody on our Facebook page saying no, they didn't kill the girl, but the bottom line is they pleaded guilty to murder. I was there. They pleaded not only guilty, but the judge said, "Are you pleading guilty on your own?" Admitting you, and they said yes.
And second degree means they didn't go out that morning with the intent of killing this girl.
And also, it could be that they were in the it could be without them elaborating. They could have been in the car with the gun. You can also charge them with that, the way the statute is set up. But they would have had the opportunity, had they chose to speak and address the court. Neither of them did. But emotional, I think, and I know people are really fired up. I've seen the comments. I just want, my job is not to defend Judge Harris. My job is to report the fact. The fact of the matter is that this plea agreement, which Sue Barisi is a tough prosecutor, reached. I mean, there could be something, I don't know, that maybe they were worried about something at trial. But the bottom line is they brought it to him. He made sure the victim's family supported it. And I know they did because the mother said so. And then she went into about you don't feel any remorse, but then she said she forgot. And she also, by the way, Randy said something else. She said, "I forgive you, Oscar. You were over at my house." I'm paraphrasing here. But I forgive you. I don't hate you because you're both babies, is what she said. You're both. Now, this was an older lady. Forgive me if
basically giving them credit for not yet growing up.
Yeah, she said that, and one's 20, one's 21. But to her, she is, and clearly Oscar Ashford had been friends with the young lady who was killed.
Did they have any priors?
If they did, we wouldn't know that because it was juvenile. They would have been.
Oh, that's right. They were juveniles at the time.
They were certified. Yeah. So I wouldn't be able to see. But and I'm not aware of any problems with either one of them and there was no disruption in court. Judge Harris made sure to both of them listen and be respectful, and from all indications they were.
Now, Brian,
but it was an emotional hearing.
We know a lot about you, but you seem like the kind of guy that would be like a space guy. You're interested in space stuff.
I enjoy space.
As a kid, did you enjoy like all the ventures into space and the moon landing and all that?
And I remember the Challenger.
What do you think about this interesting story about them bringing home the NASA crew early because one of them had a medical emergency. Of course, they don't release it because of that. Pretty interesting. First time. You'd think for all the thousands and thousands and thousands of hours that our astronauts, the Russians, I'm just like so curious about what was the illness. I can't wait to find out.
It's a great question.
I don't know if they'll ever release it or not.
Randy, my gut feeling on that, and again, just it had to be something that would have been concerns.
I don't know. There was a norovirus outbreak on one of the cruise ships. I'm just saying.
Yeah, and it could be anything. I mean, but yeah, it's a concern for sure.
Yeah, can you imagine being You're up in space. It's not like you can just say, "Hey, I got nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. I need to go to the doctor." Like you drive down the street. I mean, this is a big deal.
Yeah, it is.
Interesting what follows you into orbit now. HIPAA in space.
Yeah, or you develop an arrhythmia, maybe a heart arrhythmia. They're monitored very closely. Something like that could be very grave. I don't know. It'd be interesting. Maybe one of them will talk about it at some point when they're better.
Absolutely. When they'd have the right to do that. Yeah, it is.
Write a book.
And all of the stuff all the protocols you have to go through before you even get up there, and then they've done all the research on the damage it does to your body once you get back. Yikes!
I doubt it's an infectious disease because I know they go through a lot of painstaking preventive stuff. You see all of the people assisting the astronauts as they get on. Man, they're all in booties and hats and everything. Everything's very, very sterile atmosphere,
In space is a huge deal. I just want to add one other thing, and I'll get out of your way. You guys have a lot going on. But the official guest list has not been officially released by the governor's office that I'm aware of for the prayer breakfast. But you guys are going to have a great show tomorrow. There is a big name guest that you guys are going to both see tomorrow, and I hope you get a chance to see that person tomorrow. But I think that prayer breakfast will be packed tomorrow.
Yeah, well, we're going to be talking with Governor Keogh. I've got a commitment from Melanie Stinnett.
Oh, that's great.
Representative Stinnett from down in Greene County area.
Featured speaker is a guy some of us know, and that's Rocky Sickman, who was one of the Missouri Marine hostage in Tehran, Iran for 444 days.
How timely is that
that's
here?
Huge.
With Iran's tyrannical theocracy on the bubble. I mean, they are as we talk.
And Ronald Reagan sent Jimmy Carter, the ex-president, to go welcome those hostages. Talk about bipartisan. I mean, that was, and Rocky Sickman was one of the people that came out.
Well, it promises to be a great breakfast. All right. Drake's giving me the stink eye. We got to get out of here and then come back with leftovers. Stay tuned.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
Welcome back into Wake Up Missouri. Hope you'll come and listen to the radio, snuggle up to the radio, or to your YouTube on our Wake Up Missouri YouTube channel, or to your Alexa, or to your Facebook. And tomorrow when we're at Capitol Plaza Hotel and bringing you the Governor's Prayer Breakfast.
And hey, if you're planning on attending, we will be out in front of the ballroom. Please stop by and say hi. A lot of you we know face to face, but some of you we don't. So we'd love for you to swing by and hang out.
And if you have something outstanding that you want to talk with us about, like maybe you're going to eradicate all property and income taxes and reduce the budget in half, if you're going to sponsor that bill and you're a legislator, let us know. We'll clear out some time for you. 573-874-9390 if you want to text us in Wake Up Family Land, or call 800-529-5572. Hey, that'd be a good topic. What would you like to see out of your legislature today, Wake Up family members, or tomorrow, and this session? What would you like to see? What are the top priorities you have? I think that'd be an interesting question for you.
And I think aren't we carrying the State of the State today? Can't you tune in and listen?
Yes, we are on all three radio stations.
Yes.
So I think there's a lot of people with a laundry list of items they'd like to hear the governor talk about. So if you're sitting at work, go ahead and tune on your traditional radio, or download one of the station apps. That's a really easy way to listen when you're on the go.
What do you have on your leftover plate, Steph?
I have a whole bunch of stuff. I've got a bunch of stuff that's in stuff. Have you seen the new announcement from Barbie?
I don't tune into Barbie a
the
whole lot.
Spectrum Barbie?
Yes, there's a new Spectrum Barbie.
Come on. Really?
Yes, Autistic Barbie joins the Mattel Diversity and Inclusion line.
Okay.
Barbie, the company, partnered with Autistic Self-Advocacy Network to create this new Barbie. It's been in development for 18 months.
Wow.
And the new Barbie it looks like she has headphones.
So is that an autistic thing?
It includes a fidget spinner, pink noise canceling headphones. That's for folks who have sensory overload.
Right.
And a pink tablet that displays symbol-based communication support apps.
Interesting. So is there an autistic Ken?
Not that I know of yet.
Barbie. Do they still do Ken? Is Ken still out there?
Yes.
Well, I think it's only right that they would diversify and have autistic male as well.
Maybe.
No?
I don't know.
Well, I mean,
we got one in the studio. His name's Randy Tobler.
Oh, no, not true.
Yeah, but he doesn't get to drive the pink Corvette, so it's all academic.
I never understood on a different way until I I've interviewed Temple Grandin, and those of you in the domestic, what would you call that? Domestic husbandry, domestic animal business. She revolutionized the way animals are brought to slaughter, and very autistic. But man, I mean, a highly respected researcher in that area, and found that it was certainly more respectful to the animals to do it differently than they did previously. And you didn't get the surge of adrenaline and hormones that made the product less tasty. So both, I think, with respect to animals and with respect to the quality of the product, she's a legend in that field. And I remember it was really funny when we interviewed her. It was a very interesting interview because it was like, as I was asking the question, she knew the answer. And even before I got the last period or the question mark out, verbally, the answer was there. And I mean, it was spot on, and it was really interesting. So very, very, very savant person for sure. Well, we look forward to the broadcast from the Capitol Plaza tomorrow at the Governor's Prayer Breakfast. Hope you'll join us then. And, of course, we'll be following the news from Venezuela to Iran to the border to D.C. Thanks for being here.
Bye.